My wife gave my car to her entitled brother without asking, and he refused to return it. I didn't argue. I reported it stolen and bought a new one. He was arrested 3 days later. I, 34 male, am, or rather was, a pretty simple guy. I work in data analysis, which is about as thrilling as it sounds. My life was a comfortable routine: work, home, a bit of gaming, and spending time with my wife Danielle, 32. We've been married for 5 years. It's been fine. Not a fairy tale, but what is? We had our disagreements, mostly about her family, specifically her younger brother, Logan, 26. Logan is the dictionary definition of a screw-up with an entitlement complex the size of a small moon. He drifts from one get-rich-quick scheme to another, all of which seem to require substantial loans from family that are never repaid. He sees other people's possessions not as theirs, but as things he's temporarily not using. My in-laws, Wayne and Marilyn, enable him at every turn. Danielle, unfortunately, follows their lead. My pride and joy was my car, a 2-year-old Audi S4. Not outrageously fancy, but it was mine. I bought it with a bonus I worked my tail off for. It was my sanctuary, the one place where I could just be. The leather still smelled new. I kept it immaculate. Last Tuesday I had a colonoscopy scheduled. A real highlight of my week. Because of the sedation I couldn't drive, and my doctor's standing instruction is always no major decisions, no work, and no phone for 24 hours to let the fog fully clear. It's a policy I take seriously. I took an Uber to the clinic in the morning. Danielle was working from home. I got back around 2 p.m., woozy and feeling like I'd gone a few rounds with a heavyweight. I mumbled something to Danielle, put my phone on the charger in the kitchen, turned it off, and went straight to bed. The next morning, Wednesday, I felt human again and ready to head back to the office. I grabbed my work bag, went to the garage, and nothing. The space where my S4 should have been was empty. Just a dark, oily patch on the concrete where my baby used to sleep. My first thought was theft. A wave of cold dread washed over me. I ran back inside, heart pounding. "Danielle, the car's gone. Did you move it?" She was at the kitchen island, sipping a latte, scrolling on her phone. She didn't even look up. "Oh, Logan needed to borrow it." I stopped dead. The words didn't compute for a second. What? What do you mean he needed to borrow it? His car is in the shop again, and he had to go see a guy about an investment, an opportunity. It was important. She finally graced me with her attention, an annoyed little frown on her face. "He called me yesterday while you were sleeping it off. He knew you wouldn't be able to drive." My voice was dangerously calm. "And you gave him the keys to my car? Without asking me? You know my phone was off, but you could have woken me, Danielle. You were completely out of it. I didn't want to bother you." She waved a dismissive hand. "And honestly, I knew you'd say no and make a big deal out of it. He's my brother. Family helps each other out. He said he'd have it back last night." The casual confession that she intentionally circumnavigated me because she knew I'd object, that's what did it. It wasn't an oversight, it was a deliberate act of disrespect. "Just a car," I could hear her thinking. But it wasn't just a car. It was a $60,000 asset and a symbol of my hard work, and she gave it away like it was a cup of sugar. I took a deep breath. I knew arguing would be like screaming into a hurricane, pointless and exhausting. "Where is he?" I asked, my voice flat. "I don't know. He's not answering his phone. He's probably busy." "Okay." I walked over, powered on my phone and dialed. Danielle's eyes widened. "Who are you calling?" "The police," I said simply, "to report a stolen vehicle." Her face went from annoyed to horrified in a nanosecond. "Are you serious? You can't do that. It's Logan. You'll get him arrested. He took my property without my permission. He refuses to return it. That, by definition, is theft." I turned my back to her and started speaking to the dispatcher. I gave them the make, model, VIN, and license plate number. I explained that the vehicle was taken from my home while I was medically recovering and unable to grant consent. I did not mention Logan by name. I just said I had reason to believe a family member had taken the keys without authorization. Danielle was shrieking. "You're going to ruin his life. He's my brother. You're choosing a stupid car over my family." "You chose," I said, ending the call. "You chose when you gave him something that wasn't yours to give. I'm just dealing with the consequences." I spent the rest of the day arranging for a rental. Danielle alternated between venomous glares, tearful pleading, and frantic calls to her parents and Logan, who was still ghosting everyone. Her parents called me, of course. My father-in-law, Wayne, tried to be intimidating. "Son, you need to call this off. It's a family matter. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." "Wayne," I said, "your son has stolen a significant asset from me. The only mountain here is the one he's created. This is now a police matter." My mother-in-law, Marilyn, tried the emotional approach. "Think about what this will do to Logan. A police record. It could ruin his future. Danielle is devastated." "He should have thought about his future before he decided to commit a felony," I replied. "And Danielle should have thought about my reaction before she enabled him." I didn't raise my voice once. I was eerily calm. That seemed to scare them more than anything. I spent Wednesday and Thursday working from home. The silence in the house was thick enough to chew. Danielle slept in the guest room, fine by me. This morning, Friday, around 10 a.m., my phone rang. It was Detective Russell from the local precinct. "Mr. Davison, we've located your vehicle, and we have the individual who was driving it in custody." My heart gave a little thump. "Okay. The driver is a Mr. Logan Sterling. He claims he's your brother-in-law. Says he had permission to have the car." I took a breath. "Detective, he did not have my permission. My wife gave him the keys without my knowledge while I was medically recovering. I have not spoken to him in over a week. He has refused all contact since taking the vehicle." There was a pause on the other end. "I see. Well, the car is pretty banged up. Looks like it was in a collision, and we found paraphernalia in the glove compartment. Not a large amount of a controlled substance, but enough to file a charge." "Of course. Of freaking course. Mr. Davison, we'll need you to come down to the station to make a formal statement and to the impound lot to identify the vehicle." "I'll be there within the hour." As I hung up, Danielle came storming into the room, her face pale and streaked with tears. Her phone must have blown up. "They arrested him. They arrested my baby brother. How could you do this?" I just looked at her. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt tired and empty. "I didn't do this, Danielle," I said, grabbing my wallet and the keys to the rental. "You and Logan did." I'm sitting in the parking lot of the police station now, about to go in and sign the papers that will likely send my brother-in-law to jail and my marriage into a black hole. Part of me feels a flicker of something, a dark, grim satisfaction. The part that's been ignored and disrespected for years. Justice served, but it tastes like ashes. Update 1. Hey everyone. It's been a fortnight of pure chaos. Thanks for the comments and messages. It's grounding to know I'm not the crazy one here. The statement and the car. The police station was just as grim as you'd imagine. I gave my formal statement to Detective Russell, sticking to the cold, hard facts. No emotion, just the timeline. I explicitly stated that I did not give permission, and that my wife confirmed she gave Logan the keys, knowing I would have refused. This, the detective noted, was a key point. Then came the impound lot. Seeing my S4 was a gut punch. The collision? The entire passenger side was mauled, scraped from fender to rear door with a nasty smear of yellow paint. It looked like he'd tried to power slide into a parking spot and failed spectacularly. But the inside was a desecration. The leather was stained with God knows what. There were fast food wrappers, empty vape cartridges, and a cloying smell of stale weed and cheap cherry air freshener. The detailer at the impound lot said the smell was so bad they'd have to strip the seats. The insurance adjuster later told me the cost of the bodywork combined with the significant interior restoration required made it a clear total loss. I signed the paperwork, my hands steady this time. The car felt tainted. I didn't want it back. The insurance payout was fair, but after paying off the remaining loan, the cash I was left with wasn't nearly enough to buy the same car new. It was a bitter financial pill to swallow, a direct withdrawal from my future plans thanks to Logan's joyride. The fallout and the failed manipulations, I came home to a house that felt like a courtroom. Danielle, Marilyn, and Wayne were all there, sitting in my living room like a panel of judges. "You actually went through with it." Danielle's voice was shrill. "Logan is in a holding cell." Marilyn wailed. "My son, he could go to prison." Wayne stood up, puffing out his chest. "You need to fix this. Tell them it was all a misunderstanding." "Lie to the police?" Recant my sworn statement? So, on top of grand theft auto, possession of a controlled substance, and leaving the scene of an accident, oh yes, they found the minivan he hit, it belonged to a mother of 3? You want me to add perjury and filing a false report to my own record? Are you insane? That silenced them, but only for a moment. They just couldn't grasp it. Their world is one of soft landings and erased mistakes, paid for by others. The next phase was even uglier. A few days later, Detective Russell called. He sounded weary. Mr. Davison, I'm legally obligated to inform you that the defendant's counsel, a Mr. Phillip, has reached out via our office. He's proposing a civil compromise. They're hoping you'll agree to drop the charges in exchange for them paying for the damages. The offer was relayed through the proper channels, a desperate, slimy move. Detective, I said, please inform Mr. Phillip, through the proper channels, that I find his offer insulting. I am the victim of several felonies, and I will be cooperating fully with the district attorney's office. There will be no deal. When Danielle found out I'd refused their olive branch, she lost it. It was a way out. Wayne was going to pay for everything. Why are you being so vindictive? Because it's not about the money, Danielle. It's about the fact that your brother is a criminal who used my property to commit more crimes. This isn't a fender bender in a parking lot. This is the real world. The revenge, a quiet foundation. My revenge isn't loud. It's quiet. It's methodical. It's built on a foundation of concrete action. First, I took the insurance money, added a substantial amount from my own savings, and I bought a new car, a brand new Subaru WRX. Fun, fast, and all mine. It's registered only in my name, insured only by me, and paid for with money from an account that Danielle has never had access to. When it was delivered last week, she saw it in the garage and her face just crumpled. You bought a new car? She whispered. You didn't even tell me. There was nothing to tell, I replied. I bought myself a car. Second, I contacted a divorce attorney, a woman named Miss Leslie. She was, by all accounts, a shark. I had my first consultation. I didn't go in hot-headed. I went in with a folder, bank statements, a copy of the police report, a timeline of events I had written down. I explained that we lived in a house I owned prior to the marriage. She was clinical, efficient. She told me to start documenting everything, to separate my finances completely. So, that's what I'm doing. I opened a new bank account at a completely different bank. My paycheck is now deposited there. I've started meticulously tracking every penny. Danielle doesn't know about the lawyer. She thinks I'm just being stubborn. She's still in the guest room, leaving passive-aggressive notes about family loyalty on the kitchen counter. She thinks this will all blow over, that I'll eventually get tired and give in. She has no idea. This isn't a storm to be weathered. This is climate change. Update 2. Hello everyone. It's been a long 8 months. The wheels of justice grind slowly, but they do grind. For anyone who followed this saga, here's the final chapter. The war is over. The legal battle. Logan did not go to a jury trial. Mr. Phillip, his slick lawyer, tried every trick in the book for months. He filed motions to have the evidence from the car suppressed. He tried to argue that my wife, as my spouse, had the legal right to give consent for the vehicle. A motion the judge dismissed almost immediately. His final desperate strategy was to attempt to portray me as a financially controlling and emotionally abusive husband, arguing that Danielle was under duress, and that Logan was merely trying to help his victimized sister. He even tried to subpoena our marriage counseling records from years ago. It was all a pathetic attempt to muddy the waters. The DA's evidence was just too strong. My 911 call, my unwavering statement, the hit-and-run footage, Logan's priors, and the drugs in the car. Faced with the prospect of a jury trial he was certain to lose, Logan finally took a plea deal. He pled guilty to felony grand theft auto and misdemeanor hit-and-run. In exchange, the prosecution dropped the drug possession charge, likely because the amount was small and it streamlined the case. Last month, he was sentenced. The judge was not impressed by his tearful, coached apology. Given his prior DUIs, he was sentenced to 18 months in state prison, with eligibility for parole after 12. I was there. Marilyn sobbed loudly. Wayne stared straight ahead, his face like stone. Danielle looked at me, her eyes filled with a chillingly empty kind of hatred. As they led Logan away, he just looked defeated. The swagger was gone. Reality had finally landed. The divorce proceedings were a parallel battle. True to form, Danielle's initial response, fueled by her parents, was to fight for everything. But my lawyer, Miss Leslie, was more than prepared. The house was a premarital asset. The lines of my finances were clean and indisputable. When Danielle's lawyer saw the evidence packet Miss Leslie had prepared, including transcripts of voicemails from Wayne threatening me and printouts of Marilyn's manipulative emails, he knew a protracted fight would be pointless and ugly. The final move was the motion for exclusive use and possession of the marital home. It wasn't an eviction notice in the landlord-tenant sense. It was a legal petition as part of the divorce for a judge to order her to vacate my property. Faced with that, her lawyer advised her to negotiate. We settled. I agreed to buy out her legal claim to the appreciation of the home's value during our marriage. The amount was calculated down to the dollar by a forensic accountant. It was a significant check, but it wasn't a gift. It was a transaction. I wasn't giving her a go-away tax. I was efficiently executing the terms of our dissolution to secure my freedom. I handed her lawyer a cashier's check, and she signed the papers that legally severed her from my life. She moved out 2 weeks later. The day she left was surreal. We barely spoke. The silence was heavy with unspoken accusations and years of resentment. When the last box was in the U-Haul her father had rented, she turned to me in the driveway. "Was it worth it?" she asked, her voice hollow. "Tearing everything apart over a car?" I thought about it for a moment. I looked at my house, my garage with my Subaru safely inside. I thought about the silence that no longer felt like a weapon. "You still think this was about the car?" I said. It wasn't a question. This was about a pattern of disrespect that you finally took too far. You made a choice, Danielle. You chose your family's dysfunction over our marriage. I just chose to stop paying for it. So yes, it was worth it to get my life back. She didn't have a response. She just got in the cab of the truck with her father and they drove away. Life now. So here I am, 8 months after the initial post. I live alone. The quiet took some getting used to, but it's no longer the sound of absence, it's the sound of peace. I've reconnected with old friends. I'm planning a trip to Japan, something Danielle never wanted to do. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Danielle is living in an apartment subsidized by her parents. Wayne and Marilyn have poured their retirement savings into appeals for Logan. They are, by all accounts, broken people, trapped in a cycle of defending the indefensible. They got the consequences they earned. The revenge wasn't a fiery explosion. It was the slow, methodical application of logic and law. I didn't scream or rage. I just documented, delegated, and detached. They expected an emotional fight they knew how to win. I gave them a procedural one they couldn't comprehend. They learned that my stability wasn't a family resource to be plundered. It was mine, and I defended it. And that, I've learned, is a satisfaction that tastes a hell of a lot better than ashes. It tastes like freedom.